Hello, everybody. Greetings, book lovers everywhere, and welcome to eSharing Talks. I'm your host, Ethan. I'm a literacy advocate, podcast host, and the founder and CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit eSharing Talks Inc., which is dedicated to ending book deserts and ensuring that all kids have access to books. And today's interview is a special one indeed. I'm so excited. I am so excited because sitting across from me virtually is a wonderful author, a wonderful human, and the writer of heartwarming yet heart-wrenching stories that touch my soul, that touch the souls of many readers as well. I am thrilled to be welcoming the one and only author extraordinaire, and I don't use that term lightly because she really is, Naomi Milliner. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so excited. Like I mentioned earlier, you are one of my heroes, and you've been on my bucket list to be doing this for since 2019. So I am really delighted to be here.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here, and the feelings are mutual. Naomi's been a huge supporter of mine, and I hope to do my best to be a beacon of light in support of her stories because they're really special. They're stories that stick with you, and they've stuck with me for a long time. So, as many of you hopefully know, or you might just be learning it now, she's the writer of phenomenal, deeply meaningful middle grade books. I'm throwing out all the adjectives today because all the best adjectives describe her books. So, welcome to the show, Naomi. If you're ready, let's dive into the first question.
Okay, let's go.
All right. So, for those who don't know, your newest book is called The Trouble with Secrets. It came out in April of this year, that being 2025. And I was so happy to get the chance to read it before our talk. It's a beautiful read, it's relatable for sure, and filled with so much heart. So, let's get into the first question. Will you please share, or take a moment to share, a bit about the story?
Sure. So the Trouble with Secrets is about a 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old girl named Becky, and she is supposed to be getting ready for her bat mitzvah. She's under a lot of pressure because she's convinced that her brother and sister were flawless at theirs, which of course they weren't. But she's convinced they were, and her father is a rabbi, which adds a tremendous amount of pressure. The stakes are really high.
Mhm.
And she knows she's behind prep because she really loves her flute. That's what she wants to do, that's her favorite thing. And when she finds out that she can audition for All County Band, she's just thrilled until her dad says, "Nah, you got to work on your bat mitzvah, maybe next year." And
Yeah.
she's devastated.
Hmm.
So she maybe goes behind her parents' backs and maybe forges their signature so she can audition. That's her big secret. And then meanwhile, she discovers that her older sister Sarah is harboring a bigger sister secret of her own, and they decide to keep each other's secrets, and it leads to a lot of serious trouble.
That's for sure. And Trouble with Secrets, to continue on, I mean, first of all, it's a wonderful introduction. I hope everybody out there tuning in who hasn't discovered The Trouble with Secrets yet will be inspired to grab a copy. If that introduction wasn't enough to get you hooked, let's continue on because there's so much great information to share about this book. So, first off, I love going behind the scenes, learning a little bit about your process in writing the story. So, how did the process of writing The Trouble with Secrets go? Was it a story inspired by real events? Or was it a spark or idea that came to life from your imagination or from something you saw walking down the street?
There's a few different things, I guess, kind of a bit of both. To start with, it was actually a young adult novel, which is morphed into a middle grade, very different from the initial iteration.
Hmm.
And the second of three things, the second thing is that it stems a little bit from a TV show I was obsessed with in the 90s. So watch TV. That's the moral of this book. And it was this minor character who died. And the next season, out of the blue, she has a brother. And I was just like, what? Wait a minute. And he became a really important character throughout the whole rest of the series. And I just thought, I feel a little gypped, a little ripped off here because I don't understand where he came from. And it would have been nice to see some scenes with them together, but there weren't, not even one. So
Hmm.
I guess that made me wonder how that would have played out. And the other thing is, my brother is a rabbi. He's retired now, but he is a rabbi for many years and he has two daughters. And I thought that it would be kind of interesting to explore what that would look like, two daughters and a dad as a rabbi and how that impacted their lives.
Right. Yeah, it's a really interesting storyline, and so much plays into it. I mean, it's not just the fact that her parents are rabbis, but there's just so many other outside factors that kind of lead to so many roadblocks along the way. Because as I mentioned earlier, this is the peak of relatability when it comes to middle grade. There's so much. And As you mentioned earlier, your main character, Becky, loves playing the flute. She hopes to join the all-county band, and music itself plays a huge role in The Trouble with Secrets. So how has music impacted you? How has it impacted your life and your writing?
Well, I played the piano from grades 3 to 12, and I was no prodigy at all, not even close. It was just for fun. My husband, though, was an excellent flautist. He was tri-county winner, and he did recordings. He was really excellent. And luckily, our sons inherited his musical ability, not mine. And so my oldest son was all county, all state, all county jazz, and he still teaches a lot of music and jazz bands and things at a middle school. And my younger son is an actor.
Oh, wow.
So between the two of them, I really got a nice backstage view into that kind of life, the rehearsals, the auditions, the happiness, the scare, the fear, the performances, all of it. And I just thought Becky is a musician and her sister Sarah does musical theater. So it's kind of a fun way to blend the two.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun way and led to a lot of interesting storylines as well. So, continuing on with the musical part of the story, Becky may want to join the all county band, but as you mentioned, so we're kind of circling back a little bit, her parents would prefer she study for her bat mitzvah, which is where secrets begin to enter the scene. So I'm curious to know, did you have a bat mitzvah yourself, and was your studying experience a source of inspiration for Becky's journey?
I did have a bat mitzvah back in the dark ages before electricity, many moons ago. When I had a bat mitzvah, at least where I was growing up in Maryland, girls didn't get to do them on Saturday morning. It was only Friday night. They were abbreviated. We didn't get to read from the Torah. It was a lot shorter. And my mom, interestingly, was a Hebrew school principal,
Oh, wow.
and her dad before her also. So there was a little bit of pressure, but I don't remember being too stressed out about it. Um, I will also say that my big bat mitzvah party was in my basement with about 12 kids, and my mom made chicken, and my we bought a cake, and that was it. I was happy enough with that. I didn't know any better. No DJ involved. And the other thing is that my son Jesse, I may have borrowed a bit of his bar mitzvah speech because I used the same Torah portion for Becky.
I love it. Yeah, having a bar mitzvah or becoming a bar mitzvah was, I wouldn't say a lot of pressure, but it definitely, there was some pressure on myself. I wanted to do great. And being up on stage, I kind of felt a lot of worries kind of wash away. All the practice that goes into it, it all leads up to that moment. And I mean, it definitely depends on the person, but if you put in a lot of work, maybe if you're a young Jewish kid, maybe you're thinking of having a bar mitzvah or your parents are thinking of it, you can do it. I believe in you. So that's the motivational speech for today.
I bet you are awesome at yours.
It was a lot of fun. Nerve-wracking, but definitely fun. I don't want to give too much away, but there's also the topic of religion interwoven into the pages of the story. There are Jewish interfaith themes that as a Jewish teen I can relate to, and people from other faiths can relate to as well. So in today's political and religious climate, how important do you think it is that middle schoolers are exposed to themes of interfaith and to themes of Judaism in the stories that they read?
Hmm. Well, as far as the interfaith, I would just say that I'm not going to condemn or condone that because it's not my place. I
Hmm.
think people have to make their own choices, and hopefully they make them carefully and with a lot of thought and heart. I would say the bigger picture about teaching and sharing your culture and your religion and your beliefs, I think it's crucial, especially now, but anytime, because I think that with sharing and educating, like you do yourself, I think that bridges so many gaps. And I think if we can understand each other better, then we can get along better. And that's everything.
I 100% agree. That's a great explanation. And, continuing on with your journey, with your writing specifically, what inspired you to write middle grade stories? What brought you to this age group? And what keeps you writing for the specific age group? Whether it be, 8 to 12, maybe lower middle grade books. Maybe you are thinking of diving into upper middle grade, like The Trouble with Secrets.
Yeah.
So maybe for aspiring writers out there, and an answer for yourself personally, what keeps you writing for middle graders? And do you have any plans to write for any other age groups?
Well, that was a lot of questions.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, that narrow it down to those two.
Well, the reason I started writing middle grade in the first place was because when I wrote Super Jake, It was based on and inspired by my three sons. The oldest at the time I started writing it, he's now 90 years old. Took a while. But when I first started to write it, he was 11, which is the perfect middle grade age. So I just fell into that very organically when I told their story. And since then, I guess I love to read and write middle grade, as you read it all the time too. And I love to read and write YA. So I would like to segue. I mean, Troubled Secrets is definitely, in my opinion, more 10 to 14 than 8 to 12. So
Mm.
I'm maybe getting a little bit closer to YA, but we'll see what happens.
I had the honor of reading On All Other Nights. It is a middle grade Passover anthology that you didn't just contribute to, but you actually co-edited with Chris Barron and Josh Levy. So can you talk a little bit about the story that you contributed to it called Chocolate Tears, and how you rounded up Jewish authors and inspired them to contribute their own stories to the anthology?
I would love to talk about that book all day. So I have to go with the origin story first, which is back in 2018. Uh, I met an amazing group of fellow writers. We were the Novel 19s. On Facebook, we met at first. And then 8 of us were lucky enough to meet up during a wintry snowstorm in mid November of 2018 at Highlights. And if you haven't been yet, you must go because they will adore you and you will adore them. It's the most magical place. I love it. And so 8 of us met and we became the best of friends. And we helped each other through the craziness, the ups and down roller coaster of debut year. And 2 of them were Chris and Josh. And we got together a few times after. But in 2020, for reasons you can guess, the retreat was canceled. And in March of 2020, COVID happened right before Passover. And I love Passover. But I thought, well, I mean, my husband and my 2 sons, one of whom has since married and moved out, we're still together. But I wanted more because we always have a big house full of friends or family, to join us. And I wouldn't feel quite the same without that. So I thought, oh, we'll wait a few days till this blows over. Well, that didn't happen. Yeah, who knew? So we waited and waited and it never happened. And I was bereft because no matter where I am and what's going on, I always have my Seder. It's really important to me and special. So I skipped a year.
Mm.
And the next year, I was going to have a Seder no matter what. I was going to do the whole thing myself if I had to. And luckily, it was a beautiful Seder. We got to have people we wanted. And it was more meaningful than ever because you may have experienced this yourself. When there's something important to you and you do it year after year or even more often and you have to skip it one time, you realize what you missed and you took it for granted. And it's so much more special when you get to do it again. And that's how I felt. So we had a beautiful Seder. And the very next day, I called Chris Barron and I said, so I was thinking, the Seder was so special. And I was wondering if maybe we could write a middle grade book together about Passover because I don't think there are that many out. And he said, it's funny you should ask because Josh just called with the same thought. Why don't we all do it together? And I thought that would be amazing. And it was. It was such a joyful collaboration. We emailed, we Zoomed because we live in 3 different states. We were in touch all the time, and it was so much fun. And I still can't believe the other 11 authors we got because they're amazing writers. And I've become friends with several of them since, such a privilege and honor. And it was just a labor of love. So in terms of my story, it was Josh's idea. I have to give him credit that he thought there are roughly 14 steps to the Seder, and we should have maybe 14 stories, one per step in the right order. And I thought, oh, great, I'll get karpas, the riveting tale of dipping a green vegetable in salt water. Who wouldn't want to read that? And Josh said, no, there are themes. For example, karpas could be about memory, about loss, about tears. I'm like, oh, well, I could write about that. And I took karpas. So that was the story I wrote, Chocolate Tears. It's about love and loss. And the first line of the story, delivered by Rachel, who's around year 12 or 13, I guess, she said, this year I'd rather pass on Passover. Because even though it's her favorite holiday, she loves the fact that every year you know who's going to have too much horseradish and who's going to sing which part of Haggadah and all the food you're going to eat. She loves the sameness and the traditions and the knowing what's going to happen. And that year, no matter what, it wasn't going to be the same. And we find out why in flashbacks.
It is one of my favorite stories in the anthology. Don't tell anybody. But
Aw, thank
no,
you.
yeah, I love it so much. And karpas, it's every single part of the Passover Seder, every single step has its own meanings. And I love how you and Josh Levy gave the inspiration, and then you created your own story out of the inspiration. How you looked for the deeper meanings of Karpas, how all the authors in On All Other Nights looked for the deeper meanings, because I think in terms of Passover and all Jewish holidays, there are steps that you have to take to make it, I guess, perfect, but each step has meaning in both the family that you do it with and the tradition that's passed down. So I love your story. It's one of my favorites. And switching gears, you also wrote a book that I have right here called Super Jake and the King of Chaos. Your main character, Ethan, which cat out of the bag, is coincidentally my name.
I know. I thought it was a big secret. I never told anyone.
Ethan spends his days escaping into the world of magic. He practices and sharpens his craft and is determined to master the art of magic itself. And magic is a very interesting topic in your book, both as a fan of magic tricks myself and the deeper meanings of magic as well. So I'm curious to know if you use it as a metaphor or coping mechanism for Ethan as he deals with his brother Jake needing more attention for reasons that you will find out when you read the book, Mr. or Mrs. or viewer. Yeah.
Let me start by thanking you because you were such a big advocate for this book and you really gave it attention and love. And I so appreciate that. It means so much to me. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly, it's a very good question and a good point. I think that for Ethan, because his youngest brother, Jake, had in the book and in real life, severe special needs with brain damage, that he couldn't talk, he couldn't walk. There were so many limitations he had that I think for Ethan, it was magical thinking as well as magic itself. The family is Jewish. It's not in your face Jewish like Secrets with the Dad as a rabbi, but they're Jewish. And there's a part of the book where it's Yom Kippur, which is the day when you have to fast to be written in the book of life and repent for what you've done wrong. And Ethan, who's only 11 in the book, says, I wonder, he's sort of bargaining with God in a way. Maybe if I fast for all 24 hours, even though I don't have to because I'm not 13 yet, maybe then Jake will get better. Maybe Jake will be able to lift his head or reach out for a wand or do something more than he can. And so I think there's this magical wishful thinking until the end of the book where Ethan realizes that even though he's the amateur magician who's competing and everything and doing magic shows, the real magician in the family is actually Jake, because despite his limitations, he reaches so many people and he touches so many lives.
It's so sweet. It's a book that I love that's really stuck with me. And if you haven't read it already, whoever is listening, if you're listening and you've stuck with this interview, you have to read this book. It will, I think personally it's kind of changed my life, changed how I view middle grade. It's that good. And it's a book that's super special to me, special as well to Naomi, and hopefully it'll be special to you. So, diving a little bit more into your writing and to your background, on your website you shared that you have a master's degree in screenwriting. So how does your screenwriting background, your screenwriting know-how, impact your writing? Do you write your stories as if they were movies?
It's a fun question. I would say it definitely informs my writing. When you write a screenplay for TV or movies, it's very sparse. If you look at the page of a novel and the page of a screenplay, there's so little black on the page because you have a limited time. A TV show or movie or even miniseries can't just go on endlessly like a book can if you need it to be at any length. And so I think my training for screenwriting was like, get in, get out. So unlike Chris Barron with his gorgeous prose or poetry, I don't have a lot of description in my book. It's mostly like dialogue driven because that's how screenwriting is. So I think that definitely affected my writing.
Yeah. Screenwriting, eventually a lot of books, or some books, they become movies. So there's always that overlap that you might see. So it's a really interesting to have that background, and it's a topic that I love learning about. So continuing on with this screenwriting journey that you went on, whether it be short or not, after your time in screenwriting, what made you decide to switch to writing books rather than movies or plays or whatever you were interested in writing about?
Well, I think I was in LA for a number of years. After I went to film school at USC, I then worked in the industry for a while, writing and helping out and whatever the jobs were. Lots of jobs in different fields there. And after a while, we had our first son. I met my husband in film school too. We had our first son, Jeremy, and I was under a table during an earthquake. You might have experienced a couple of those yourself. And they terrified me. And I just thought I didn't have this son to be hiding under a table with him. We're moving back east. So we moved back to Maryland, and I just thought, it's really going to be tough to sell a screenplay in Maryland when everyone's in LA and New York. And I have a child now, so maybe I would try to write children's books. And that's what I did.
And you've done an astounding job, an outstanding job.
Oh.
And I'm glad that you made that switch.
Me too.
So, both of your stories, we're kind of switching gears. They're going to you, then you're writing, then you. All right, we're back in your books. Both of your stories that you have right here that you personally wrote are beautiful, and they both also deal with grief. For young readers, topics like death can be hard to read about. Oftentimes in middle grade, characters have passed on before the stories take place. Maybe a family member or a friend, they've passed on, which adds themes of grief, but also acceptance from the main characters. How do you tackle death in an easily digestible way for readers?
Well, I hope that I do. It's definitely really important to me. I have to point out that Super Jake does not have grief per se. I think it's anticipatory grief because at one point it looks like Jake is going to die. And in real life he did, but in the book he doesn't. And I'm so glad I made that decision after many iterations where he does. But we'll talk about grief and secrets then. How about that?
Yeah.
So definitely there's a death in that one. And there are a couple things I'll say about it. First of all, I would say that part one, I did two parts in that book. Part one is before, so it's in the past when things are relatively happy and going fine.
Mm-hmm.
Part two is now, which is present after the tragedy, the aftermath, and how they deal or don't deal with it. And so I sprinkled a few of the nows in before so that it would kind of not blindside the readers. I wanted to be gentle with them. I wanted to let them know something bad is going to come. Don't forget, but for now, it's okay. So I hope that was a little bit of a warning, so they wouldn't be, really maybe as upset as they would be if it was out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that having experienced a really terrible loss myself, so many people do, and everyone does sooner or later, unfortunately, that I am here to tell you that you don't get over it, but you can get through it. And just like in the book, you can ultimately find joy again. So I want it to be a message of hope.
Yeah. When there's grief, there's also sometimes hope. And I think that you do a really great job of contrasting, yet also comparing, because they're not so different. They can be interwoven if you try to find the hope in your life. So you do a great job of that. And, I'm curious to know, I'm sure everybody else watching is, after watching this interview, learning more about you. Can you share any current writing projects or plans for future books of yours?
Sure, I'd be happy to. The book I'm working on now is another middle grade. It's about 4 girls. Their names are Nick, Ellie, Andy, and Ren. And I'm saying that only because if you take the first letter of each name, it spells Near. And I think of them as the Near girls. They come from different parts of the country, and they meet up at Ocean City, New Jersey. And they become fast friends, and they help each other through different things, like one is trying to save an animal shelter from closing. Another one is trying to save her parents' marriage, which is a tall ask for a 12-year-old. And another one is trying to find her biological mom because she's adopted. So it's hopefully interesting storylines, and they come together and work through these things.
I, for one, am excited to read that. I hadn't heard that description before this interview, so I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait for it to be released.
I hope you like it.
I know I will, just from that. And I know I will because you're the one writing it. So now it's time for the final question of the interview. The question I ask every single person I interview. Are you ready?
No. Go ahead.
Well, we'll do our best. We'll get through it.
We'll do our best, yes.
If you could be or meet any literary character, by that I mean you could meet your favorite character from a book or an author of yours that's your favorite, who would it be and why?
It's a fun question. I have given it some thought, and I'm going to give you an unorthodox answer. So I would choose a character that I wrote based on my maternal grandmother. She's in the anthology, the Chocolate Tears short story. I named her after my grandmother, Clara. I never got to meet her. And I always wish I had because I've heard wonderful stories about her. She was an amazing woman. And I felt like we were kindred spirits. And so I've always wanted to meet her. So if I could, that would be a real pleasure.
That is a beautiful answer. And it's unorthodox, but it's perfect. I think that's a perfect way to close this interview with such a sweet answer. And I mean, I have a great grandfather, Oscar. He's somebody that I feel I have a kindred spirit with as well. So I can really understand that personal connection. And all right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I loved it. I learned so much about you, Naomi. I thought sometimes when you read a book, you think, I know everything about this book. I'm not going to learn anything else new. But after doing these interviews, I always learn there's more to the story, whether that be the behind the scenes work of authors like yourselves or the deeper themes and emotions portrayed that you may miss at first glance when you're reading a book like The Trouble with Secrets or Super Dragon and King of Chaos. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday when we're recording. I hope you have a great rest of your day, Naomi. Thank you for being you.
Thank you for your service. You do such an amazing job for all of us writers. We really appreciate your support. So thank you, Ethan.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You're amazing. And everybody watching, keep on reading. And by that, I mean read Naomi Milliner's books. They are fantastic. And have a great days, be great people, and keep on reading. Bye-bye.
Bye.